Okay, I think we will make a start. So welcome to another in our ServiceNow Live on ServiceNow webinars. This one is going to cover the DevOps Change Workspace. So we will get straight into it. First slide, which you may have seen a few times before, if you've been to any ServiceNow presentations before, is just our safe harbor slide. In case we talk about any future features which we haven't delivered yet, please don't make any buying decisions on those. But everything I'm going to talk about today is already available in the current version of ServiceNow. Just some notes about this is part of an interactive series, and there's a schedule available for other events that you can join. I think one of my team members will post a link to that in the chat. So please have a look at that and register yourself for the other events if you haven't already. There's some really useful stuff in there. I've got a bit of a croaky voice today, so excuse me while I pause to have a sip of water. I think my wife gave me her cough. All right, we'll move on. So just in terms of, excuse me, how we're running this session, we will have time at the end for Q&A, so you can definitely post your questions in the Q&A as we go through the presentation. But seeing as we're a small group, I think we're okay with people asking questions, and you can unmute yourself and ask questions as we go through if you like, because we don't have a large audience today. And just to note that we are recording this presentation and will be shared on our ServiceNow community page. And you will be sent an event survey at the end to get your feedback and thoughts on the event and how we can improve. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Mike. I'm an outbound product manager in the ITSM business unit at ServiceNow based in Melbourne. I've been with ServiceNow for around 10 months and looking after DevOps and ITSM. Okay, so first I'd like to start with a poll question, which is to just get an idea about how and whether you are using the DevOps Change Workspace today. So have a look at those questions. I'm going to launch the first poll now. And please respond with your answer to the poll. Just give it 30 seconds for people to finish responding. Be great if everyone can respond, please. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. So it looks like some folks on the call have started using it and had some minor usage, and some people are planning to use it soon. So that's perfect. These sessions are really all about adoption. So what we're after today is to get a view of where you are in terms of adopting DevOps change. And we're here to help you get started. That's what this session is all about. So we're here to show you how you can use the DevOps Change Workspace to kick off that work and to get started, because we're very keen for customers to adopt. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So when we talk to our customers, and this is just to provide some context before we launch into the actual DevOps Change Workspace. This is to give you some context on what the product is all about and the problem areas that it's addressing. So a lot of organizations are telling us that when they're trying to adopt DevOps, they're having some challenges and some issues. So often the developers are sitting in their own tool sets, and they're obviously, writing code and doing some testing and committing the code and doing lots of deployments. And then the operations folks on the other side are looking at the changes that are coming through and trying to understand what is being changed. And often these two sets of people, the dev and the ops side, don't all share the same data because they don't have access to each other's tools. And that creates a bit of a divide, a bit of a wall between the two groups, and often results in some issues. So for example, in the middle slide there, in the middle section, you can see there, some customers are saying that a lot of their changes are not registered. They're flying under the radar and they're not going through the change process. And that's probably because developers have to manually switch to ServiceNow and create changes manually and go through that process, which they see as an overhead. This overall results in a slowdown in terms of the overall delivery, and it's difficult to achieve what DevOps is promising that customers can deliver. So if you look at the roles involved and you look at the people that are typically doing these roles, we can see that, for example, as I said, the developer doesn't want to spend time on admin tasks and raising changes manually. They just want to do their work in their tool and get the code out the door. The change manager is seeing a lot of changes either flying under the radar, or when they do come through, having trouble understanding the increasing volume of change and what is actually changed. So, there is often not good data on the change record to help them understand that. And then you've got other roles like, governance and compliance. How do we make sure that changes are being compliant with our controls and our governance? How do we measure? How do we have transparency and auditability into what's being delivered? And if things go wrong, operations support often don't have that visibility. So when we've got an issue, how do we know what changed? How do we know when it changed and who changed it? And the engineering manager is also trying to get insights into their DevOps team and how they're performing, and look at the data in terms of trying to understand any bottlenecks or issues across the value stream. So those are the problem areas essentially that we address with the DevOps Change Velocity product. And how do we do that? So essentially what our strategy is, let's keep developers in their own tools. So we don't want to force developers to come into ServiceNow. They should be able to stay in their own tools. What we do instead is we integrate all those tools through our spokes through Integration Hub. We have a lot of the most commonly used tools are available. We have connectors for those. So some of those you can see on the screen: Jira, GitHub, Jenkins, Azure DevOps, etc. So we do the integration up front, and the DevOps Change Workspace will help you do that very easily. And once we get that data into ServiceNow, we're able to make use of that data in order to automate the change process. So for example, we can look at, whether we passed all our unit testing, whether our code coverage was above a specific percentage that's meaningful for our organization. Did we have any security vulnerabilities? Do we have any incidents or change freezes that we need to adhere to? All the data that's in ServiceNow can be used in order to create decisions in a change approval policy to automate the change process. And the other thing that we get is we're able to measure performance, and we'll have a look soon at the Insights dashboard, which allows us to measure the performance of what's being delivered. So that should all result in a lot more efficiency for all these roles. So at the end of the day, we're using automation to increase visibility and to increase velocity of change, DevOps change, whilst maintaining compliance and auditability and providing insights into how we're delivering. What we also do within the product is we provide organizations and customers with an adoption journey. So you don't need to jump straight into Nirvana, which is full change automation, which is at the top right of the slide. You can start slowly and onboard your tools and teams first, and then move through a crawl, walk, run process. And the tools all support this in order to eventually get to full change automation in your organization. So we're able to support that with our tools. Okay, so now we're going to get into the DevOps Change Workspace and go through that. Now, instead of jumping through these slides, the rest of these slides, I think what I'll do now is just skip through these, and we will go and talk about all these different aspects of the workspace in the demo. So I'm just going to stop my share and pause for a minute. Now, do we have any questions at this stage?
No, Mike, we are good. We are good as of now. I don't see any questions in chat box as well. Okay,
cool. Just a reminder again, if you do have questions, you're welcome to come off mute. Or you can put your questions in the chat. All right, let me share again. Okay, so this is my ServiceNow instance. Sorry, is that screen showing for everyone? Can you see the Chrome browser?
Yep.
Yes. You do? Yep. Great. Okay, so how do we get to the DevOps Change Workspace? So you can just click on Workspaces here, and there's a link to it, or you can go into the navigator and type in DevOps Change, and there's a link to it there. So 2 ways to get to it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Now we're going to go through all the different parts of this, but what I want to draw your attention to here is these 3 sections, these cards up at the top. Really what we're trying to do here is make it easier for our customers to get started. So previously, before we had this workspace, obviously we've got documentation and implementation guides available where customers can go and do the setup and integrate all their tools and onboard their teams, their applications, etc. That's a fairly lengthy process, and we wanted to make it much easier for our customers to get started. So the way we've done that is by using these cards. They guide you through what you need to do to get set up. And there are playbooks that sit behind each one of these, which will automate many of the steps involved in onboarding. So for example, setting up system accounts will allow you to set up the accounts that manage integration and the system, etc. Now, I've already done that in this instance. You can also assign roles. So, for example, different people in your organization can have different roles. They can be application owners or DevOps admins, and you're able to assign roles to those folks there. You're also able to assign tasks. So, for example, if I need to do an integration with Jira, and I need my Jira admin to provide me with some information about the Jira URL and the credentials, I can assign that person a task and ask them to do that work. So that's that section over there. And then over here, we've got playbooks, which actually help you to connect all those tools and to create your DevOps applications. So let's initially have a look here at connecting a tool. Okay, so we categorize the different DevOps tools via these different categories here. So planning tools, these are tools that contain your work items, your planning, your projects, your user stories, your features, bugs, etc. will sit in one of these tools. Your coding tools obviously contain your code, your code repositories. Your orchestration tools are the ones that manage your CI/CD pipeline. Your software artifacts, so things like Artifactory or ADO. Software quality tools, so tools like SonarQube, etc., that manage scanning. And we also support feature flag tools like Split. So if we want to connect a tool, I'll just give an example here. I'm going to connect to my Jira instance. So I'll give it a name. Click on next. And what this will do is it will go and run a playbook. So the playbook is going to gather all the data that's required from me. So it's asking me for my Jira URL. Just going to grab that and paste it in. And then my username. And now I need to provide my token, password token or personal access token. And then I click connect. So this is going to go off and try and connect using those credentials to Jira in this case, and ensure that I have connectivity. And it's also checking the permissions. So obviously within Jira, you need different permissions to ensure that you can access your plans and fetch the stories, etc., via webhooks. And excuse me for a sec. Sorry about that. And the playbook is ensuring that you have the right permissions in place in order to proceed with the next step. If I didn't, it would tell me and it would give me some help and tell me what I needed to do. In this case, I do have the right permissions, so I can continue. Now what it's going to do is going to fetch all the data that's available in that Jira instance. And I'll just quickly show you that this is the Jira instance I'm connecting to. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of projects with different data that's sitting in Jira there. Now I have a choice. I can either use webhooks, which will get set up automatically for me. And that's recommended if I want to bring in data in real time. So when stories are created and updated, etc., the webhook will notify ServiceNow and update the data in ServiceNow. If I don't want to do that, I can enable nightly polling, and that will trigger a job to go and fetch the data every night if I don't need real-time data. We're going to configure the webhooks to get real-time data. So I'll click on configure. Now that's actually going and setting up those webhooks in Jira and pulling in all the data. And it's exploring and discovering all that data that exists in my Jira instance. And it's going to come back eventually, hopefully. Right, so it's gone and found all that data in Jira and it's displaying it for me. And now it's asking me which of these 106 plans that have been discovered do I want to track in ServiceNow. So I'm able to select, I'll just make this bigger, and let's say I want, I'll just pick a few, just say I want these ones. I'll just pick those ones. Okay, and then click on next. And now the ones I selected are going to be tracked via webhooks automatically. So this playbook is now finished. That Jira tool is connected, and I can now view it. Okay, so what that's done is it's it's run an import. That import request has gone and discovered all the data, and it's pulled in all the plans, and it's tracking the ones that I asked it to track here. So that's basically how that works. I'll just close that. The other thing we can do is we can create a DevOps application. So let's say I want to create a DevOps application. We'll call it live on ServiceNow app 2. This will go and create a new SDLC component and application model in the CMDB with that name. Or I could have used an existing one. If I had one already created, I could use an existing one. So this has created an app for me. And then over here on the right, you can see recommended actions. So the workspace is guiding me in terms of what I need to do next. So you can see currently I don't have any plans or code repositories, pipelines or artifact repositories or associated with this application. But I can go and do that. I can associate those items with my application. So just as an example, I'll say associate these plans with this application. And I can now go through and say, I want to import all the historical data. Maybe I'll go back to January and say, import all that data for me. And it will go and import all that data and add it into ServiceNow and associate it with this application in ServiceNow. And in a similar way, I can associate my repositories, my pipelines, etc. So that's all there for me and guided for me as part of the workspace. Okay, the other thing I can do, once I get to the stage where I've got my pipelines in place and I want to automate my change process, I'm able to do that by clicking on these links to do that. And I can also view some guidance in terms of how it works. So I've got some inbuilt in-tool help, which will guide me through how to set up a change approval policy, how to manage it, etc. So it's all in one place. It's a single place where I can go for everything. Okay. The other thing on here is that I've got some high-level widgets which are displaying the tools that I've got connected, the events that have been processed, etc., any open tasks, changes waiting for approval, etc. Okay, so let's jump to the insights section, which is over here. Now, because this is my personal instance and it's only me working on it, there's not going to be great data there. So I'm going to jump to another instance where there is better sample data, just to show you what that looks like once you've connected your tools and you do have developers and teams working with DevOps. The Insights dashboard is going to really help you understand where you are today, look at your different processes and understand whether you have any issues or bottlenecks or anything that you need to take care of and focus on. And then you can use these different dashboards in here to track how you're going and your progress as you work through implementing DevOps and automated change. So just to quickly show you, excuse me, flow metrics track essentially cycle time for your planning items, your work items. So the status that each item is going through and how long each item spends in a particular state. The throughput and distribution is, how are we doing in terms of the number of bugs that we're fixing versus the number of stories that we're delivering. How long are we taking to actually deliver stories, features, tasks, etc.? And how are we doing in terms of where we are with work in progress? Now, if this is real data, I can click into any of these and it'll take me into more detail. The change acceleration tab will show me how I'm doing in terms of my DevOps changes. So my change volume, how long it's taking to close those changes, automated versus manual, anything that's waiting for approval, etc. And I can even look at savings. So because I'm automating my changes and the developers don't have to manually create them and manage them, there's a time-saving aspect and a ROI that we can track in terms of developer hours saved down here. And that is configurable for each customer. So you can plug in figures which meet your organization's needs and track that. I'm also able to break any of these dashboards down via these buttons at the top, which will make more granular filtering on all the dashboards in terms of application, repository, service, business app product, date range, etc. The accelerate metrics, if you're familiar with DevOps, you might have heard of the DORA, the Google DORA metrics, which are the 4 key metrics that have been used as industry standard in terms of how teams are doing with their DevOps. So things like lead time, deployment frequency, mean time to restore, and failure rate. So those are the key DORA metrics that are shown here. Quality metrics are all about your quality of your code that's being delivered in terms of the coverage, testing, bugs, vulnerabilities, etc. And this is where I can dive into my insights on my developers and see how they are performing in terms of commit frequency, active committers, reverters, etc. So all that data is there, pipeline pass percentage. Commits without work items, that's an important one. I don't have any data for this one, but that's an important one. And then finally, operational stability. So obviously, we want to deploy quickly, but we also want to make sure we're not breaking things when we deploy and causing incidents and outages and affecting service availability. So that can be tracked as well. Okay, so that's insights. Just jump back here. So the next one here is my application tab. So the application tab just gives me easy access to all my DevOps applications and their associated data. So just for example, I'll show you this one. I can see this application and I can see I've got some plans and repository, code repository and pipelines for this particular application. This one happens to be Azure DevOps. So I'm able to see the data that's associated with that and drill in. So for example, with this particular pipeline, I can look at in more details about that pipeline. I can actually view the pipeline and how it's been running. So I can see my pipeline execution history and that this last one passed, and these are the steps, and this is all the data, the artifacts, the commits, if I had any, work items, etc., that are associated, and even the change request that's associated with that particular pipeline. So that is the applications section. And then on the tools section, obviously, this is more detail. So again, my planning tools. So I can see in this case, I've got ADO and I've got Jira. I can look at my coding tools and my orchestration tools, etc. So that's all there. And again, I can run the playbook from here to connect any new tools. And then finally, I've got an administration section, and this is really for the DevOps, the ServiceNow DevOps admin. So this gives me a wealth of data in terms of the health of my system, looking at whether I've got any errors, anything that's waiting, my tool connectivity. If I do have any issues, I've got error logs, inbound events, etc., that I can look at. I've got properties that I can manage, and I can, again, do my onboarding via these links, my user roles, group roles, etc. So that really allows me to do all my system health checking, my troubleshooting, and configure my system properties and onboarding from this particular section. So all in all, what the workspace gives us is a whole set of tools in one place that allows me and the people in my organization to quickly onboard and make good use of DevOps, track how we're doing, and do it in such a way that it's easy to get started. So that's really the intent here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing there and jump back to my slides. Do we have any questions at this point?
No, Mike, not yet. I think we have a silent group.
Very silent group. Okay. So just share again. Okay, so time for another poll. Now that you've had a look at the workspace and hopefully got a better idea of what it's all about, I know some of you have made a start and some of you said that you had a little usage. So what do you think now after having a look at it? So let me just launch that poll. Okay, so please answer this one. I'm very keen to get your feedback on what you will do next now that you have the info. Okay, we've got 2 responses so far. Please, everyone, make sure you respond. Give it another 20 seconds. Okay, we've got a couple of people haven't responded yet. Please respond if you can. Okay, let's end it there. Share the results. Okay, so looks like one person needs a little bit more detail. That's fine, absolutely fine. Please make sure you send us in the chat your email address and we will get back to you. Or happy for you to come off mute and ask questions now. If we can answer them, we certainly will. And then we've got some people saying you're not ready to use DevOps Change. So yep, that's fine. It's a journey. And then one person saying, looks great, want to make a start. Fantastic. Very happy to hear that. Okay. Thanks very much for that. Okay, what I also have in here is some links to resources. We will send out the pack to everyone who's attended. So if you want to get started and you're not sure where to start, or you do need more information, there's a lot of information that's out there on Customer Success Center. There's some training that you can do on our learning portal. We have some community links that have a wealth of information attached to them on how to get started and what you should do if you're kicking off a DevOps project. And we have a bunch of other videos that you can look at, which go through some demos and dive into some more detail about the DevOps products. So we'll send those out so you can have a look at those. So any final questions? I can't, do we have? Okay, I see Lay Pair. You just said yes. I'm not sure what the yes refers to. Did you have a question or did you need some help?
Hey, Mike, thanks for the explanation. No, the yes was earlier, just to answer that when you share your screen, whether we can see that.
Ah,
Right.
awesome. All right, great. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see that when I was presenting. Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much for attending, everyone. We will send out the link to this once it's ready. And we're very keen, as I said, to make sure that our customers get started with DevOps. If you do need any help, absolutely happy to help you. So please reach out and let us know.